Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Empower Her podcast. Your need to control everything is taking energy away from what actually matters, okay? When you spend time trying to control situations, you are making your life harder. And here's the thing, the majority of things in life you cannot control, okay? You can't. You absolutely can't control. And you're trying to control them. But in life, most things cannot be controlled. For example, what other people say, how other people think and act, society, what happens, the weather. Some people will say otherwise, but I digress. But you can't control these things, right? We know you can't control these things. There are only two things that you can control: how you act and how you react in a situation, okay? And people say like, oh, you can control your feelings. I'm not really sure that you can control your actual feelings, like your initial feelings that come up. I think that you can learn to feel different things, and that comes from therapy, self-awareness, understanding what those other underlying triggers are. But you can control how you react. So even if you're mad or angry or upset, it doesn't mean you need to react in a way that's going to reflect that, right? There is going to be, a difference. And you take up more energy. I want this to be so clear, is you take up more energy worrying about others and focusing on things you can't control than focusing on yourself. Okay. As an example, I work with a lot of clients who are looking for their next role, right? I do a lot of career coaching, and they often want to control the outcome, right? Even though their goal is, let's get a new job, let's get a higher salary, right? Technically, you can't control the outcome. Okay. You can't control when a recruiter is going to apply to you. You can't control when you're going to get an offer. You can't control when they're going to reach out to schedule an interview, right? You can't control any of those things. So it's like, okay, then what can you control? Then how do I get a new job if I can't control these things, right? Like that's the question you're asking me, right? You can control your approach to the situation. You can control how you mentally feel, right? You can control how often you apply to jobs. You can control how often you network and send emails, right? If they don't follow up, you can keep following up, right? You can control whether you prep for interviews in the right way. These are all things that you can control. And we know that if you put in the work and you take the actions, you're going to get your end goal, which is the job, right? But we can't say it's going to happen tomorrow because you can't control whether it's going to happen tomorrow. What you can control, though, is how many jobs you're going to apply to and all of those other things that we listed. And so many of my clients want to control the process, right? They want to control the end. They want to control their responses and how people respond to them and when, they have to do certain things. But you can't control other people in the process. You can only control what you do and yourself in the process, right? And from a tactical perspective, when you try to control other people or other variables in the process, you'll keep hyper fixating on those things that which you cannot control. Okay. So instead of putting energy on the things you can control, you're putting energy on things you cannot control, right? And that's really going to be negative for you in the long run because you're literally wasting time and energy that you could be spending. I have clients that spend 3 days worrying why they're not getting a response from a recruiter. And I'm like, okay, you could have taken that energy and applied to 3 more jobs. Okay. And that's going to get you closer to your goal, right? So from a tactical perspective, like you're literally wasting time and energy. From a spiritual perspective, more like an energetic perspective, not just like a practical energy, but like energy in like a spiritual form, we all have a limited amount. Okay. The way I think of it is like I'm in a bubble and I have like a limited amount of energy that is like in my bubble basically. And because of that, I want to make sure that I use the energy in my bubble in the best way possible, right? So if I'm spending all of the energy in my bubble focusing on other people, how they act, what they do, etc., then I'm leaving little to no energy to actually work on the things that will move the needle forward or that will actually help me because my energy is already spent, right? And then when this happens, I feel resentful, right? Anxious, stressed, tired. It brings negative energy in. I get frustrated. And then when we're in this state of energy, is that the right energy to be achieving your goals in? If I'm like, let's say my goal is to do a podcast every week, right? and I'm in the energy of like, oh, I'm so tired and I'm frustrated. And oh my God, I had to do, I had to deal with these other people at, the gym and the tax office and whatever. And like, they're not doing what I asked them and blah, blah, blah. I'm putting all my energy into that versus like, okay, can I sit down and record my podcast? Right? So it's important to look at where we're putting our energy, because being in that energetic space isn't going to actually get you what you want. And just going back to the topic of control, right? Wanting to control everything usually comes from a place of insecurity in one place or another, right? And I'm someone that like used to love to control everything, and it's something I still struggle with, if I'm being transparent, is wanting to control everything. But it used to be really bad. It was an obsession. I had an obsession with my family and how they acted, and I wanted to change them. My partners, how they acted, and wanting to change them. I had all this negative energy, and I really tried to control everyone. I wanted to make every situation perfect. I wanted everyone to be happy, and it was killing me inside. I was the one that was feeling resentful and tired and lethargic and burnt out, right? No wonder I left corporate. I had, to have a lot of therapy to get over some of this in order to have a better relationship with my family. I had to learn that I can't control, my romantic partners, and I have to find someone that's actually going to be a right fit for me, right? Like going through all of these things. And a lot of this happened because I didn't have boundaries, because I didn't know how to say no, because I was in everyone's business all the time. Yeah, I was in everyone's business. Okay. I was trying to control everyone, all their feelings, everything that they did. And I was trying to control everyone except for myself. And I completely neglected myself. I completely neglected what I wanted, what I needed, what it would have been good for me. And this really caused me a lot of pain and struggle, because I really wanted everything to be perfect. And I ended up just feeling let down every time. And the thing is like, if we're coming from a place of like, let's think of this like realistically, right? Does controlling everything lead to success? I thought it did. I really thought it did. But now I would say no. And I would even go as far as to say it's going to be the opposite. The more you focus on other people, the less success you'll have. The more you focus on yourself, the more success that you will have. Okay. So what do you do when you're in a situation where you're feeling resentful or you're focusing on the wrong thing? Sometimes it's hard to sort of get out of this situation, but I want to give you a few ideas on what you can actually do to move the needle and get out of this situation, okay? The first thing, which y'all know I preach this all the time, is nervous system regulation, okay? When we try to control other situations, when we're in a frustrated state, anxious state, our nervous system is most likely dysregulated. We're probably in fight, flight. I wouldn't say freeze in this situation because we're trying to control, right? We're taking action. Freeze is when we're sort of just stuck and we're not able to move forward. So you can do nervous system regulation to calm your nervous system. So a few of my favorites, I love breathing exercises. These are things that you can do pretty much anywhere. I love a box breathing, which is like inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4, hold 4, and then you keep repeating. I also love a 4x8 where you inhale 4 counts through your nose and exhale 8 counts through your mouth. And I do this 20 times. I love these breathing exercises. These have been really great for me, and I use these. You can literally do this wherever you are. You don't have to have your eyes closed. I typically do them with my eyes open. They're really, really great. So I highly recommend them. There's other nervous system regulation exercises, but you could even just go for a walk, for example, for like 10, 15 minutes if you can. Something I used to do at work, when I worked in corporate, the place that I worked was an office building, and it wasn't in like a nice, area. It was in a pretty busy area. And so there was like no trees or any like green around. So what we would do is I would sometimes like just go downstairs and like walk around the building. And even that was sometimes like helpful. Like it just kind of gets you flowing. You can have a conversation with someone. You can calm down. You can think about a situation, especially if it's like a work situation, right? So that's a great thing to do. Meditation is also really great if you have time. And again, meditation does not need to be a 20-minute meditation. I know that's sort of like people think it needs to be, but it really doesn't. It can be like a 5-minute meditation. There's lots of great apps you can use, or you can do it independently, like whatever works for you. Visualization is also great. I love visualizations. Maybe you want to visualize the outcome of what you'd like, and that can help you get there. It's sort of like a meditative state, but just like more specific towards a specific visualization that you're doing. I also love EFT tapping. So if that's something you're interested in, I've done that before. That's really great nervous system regulation. There's lots of people online who teach it on TikTok, YouTube, things like that. Another thing you can do when you're feeling sort of this like resentful space where you feel like you're trying to control and spiraling is journaling. So journaling is really great to kind of get your feelings out, write them out, because sometimes it helps you to write it out and then go back and then try to decipher what's happening. So journaling is really great. I highly recommend this, especially if you're someone that feels like they need to quote unquote get it out of their system, like get all the information out. And then you can take a beat and go back and look at what you actually wrote and say, okay, what are the things that I'm trying to control? What are the things that are actually in my control, right? Another tip you can do is being mindful. So just realize when you're spiraling that you're spiraling. Like see and hear yourself when you're spiraling and say, okay, I feel like I'm spiraling. I got to take it back a notch. Let me just take it back a notch. I got to pull it back. Okay. And that can be really helpful as well. It's just like taking it back a notch, understanding where you are, and then taking a step back and pausing. You don't always have to take action. Sometimes it's about pausing, freezing, and then moving forward when you feel better. Another thing you can do is set boundaries with people, especially if people that cause you stress don't bring you joy. I had to do this with a lot of people in my life, whether it was my friends, family members. I felt like I was out of control because I was trying to control everything. So I had to set boundaries because that was the only way that I was going to be able to feel calm in the situation and really be able to make any changes long term and understand what was happening. Another thing to do, which kind of goes along with setting boundaries, is saying no when you feel like you're in a situation that doesn't serve you. Again, whether it's physically getting up and leaving, saying no in a situation, actually removing yourself and saying no before moving on and making a decision. And again, you get to decide where you put yourself and what you do. That is something that is in your control. The physical space you're in, the mental space you're in, the people that you surround yourself with, that is all within your control, right? And I think the focus should be is shifting from power and trying to control the situation to shifting to trusting yourself and trusting what you're doing, because that is where you're going to succeed. Okay. It does come back to trusting yourself, because if you trust yourself and you trust that things are going to work out, you trust that, everyone has, the universe has your best interest, you trust that you're going to be able to figure out the situation, then you won't feel this constant need to control everything around you, right? Because again, control comes from fear, from that insecurity, from that negative, from that lack mindset. And we want to come from an abundance mindset that things are going to work out, that if you put in the work and take the action, you will manifest those things that you want. That's the point where we want to come from, okay? And if you're taking all these steps and you're putting in the work, you're focusing on yourself, you're going to see those results. I see it time and time again with my clients that when they focus on what they can control, they get the results that they want, okay? They do. They get the results that they want. And again, it's about putting the work in, but not feeling that intense emotional attachment to controlling the whole situation, right? Because you have to realize, and again, this comes from the insecurity, is that the outcome of what happens or how it happens isn't a reflection of you and your worth, right? You're a worthy person just by living, just by breathing. And we tend to focus on controlling other situations because we're worried we're not worthy enough, right? But it's going to lead to better focus, better energy. You're going to get the results you want if you focus on yourself, right? And it's going to get you closer to your end goal. It's also going to allow you to be open to different opportunities because you're going to have a regulated nervous system. It's just going to be better all around, and you're going to get to your goal faster, quicker, more easily if you focus on what is and what isn't in your control. I have a little exercise for you. If it's hard for you to kind of decipher what is or isn't in your control, this exercise you can do. So what you're going to do is take out a piece of paper, get a pen or a pencil, and you're going to draw a line down the middle. So take the paper, draw a line down the middle. Then on the left side at the top, just write what I can control or what you can control. And then on the right side, write what you cannot control. And then this is where you're going to make a list. Just brain dump a list of everything that you can control and everything that you cannot control. I got so excited. I'm like crashing into my mic. So this is a really great exercise to do. Again, take a piece of paper, line down the middle. Left side is what you can control. Right side is what you can't control. Brain dump the list. This is going to help you put everything into perspective, okay? And that's the point. We want to put it into perspective so then you can focus on just the side that you can control, okay? Super important. I hope you liked this episode. This was inspired by a lot of feedback I've gotten recently and even my own life, trying to control things. It's normal. And just kind of taking a step back and seeing what we can do so that doesn't happen. Okay. I hope you like this episode. I hope you find it helpful and found it helpful and can really utilize this in your life. I would really appreciate a 5-star review wherever you're listening to this. This really helps boost the podcast. I hope y'all have an amazing week and I will see you in the next episode.